All right. I don't want to take up too much time, so we're going to get started with introductions, and I'm just want to say hello, everyone. It's good to see everybody out here today. I would like to welcome you all to the IGDA Philadelphia 2023 Town Hall. We do this every single year where we kind of take a stock of everything that we got done in the past year. We talk about some of the challenges that we had, some of the opportunities that are still available to us, and all the cool things that we have lined up for next year, and some of the opportunities that we want to try and tackle. A lot of really good stuff here. What's really nice, if you don't know me, by the way, my name is Adrian Sandoval. I am the chair for IGDA Philadelphia. And what is IGDA, you might ask? Well, IGDA, the International Game Developers Association, is a nationally based global organization that seeks to support and empower game developers all around the world to help them achieve fulfilling and sustainable careers. Again, it is a global organization, chapters all around the world. Our chapter here in Philadelphia, we specifically want to advocate for Philadelphia-based game developers, the games that they create, their studios. We also want to encourage inclusivity, respect, and ethical behavior within this community, provide a space for developers to be able to network with their other developers and get to know each other inside of our community, to try and provide information I can read, informational and enjoyable content through speakers and events such as this event that we are holding today on the second Tuesday of every month, as well as generally connect the Philadelphia game development community with our wider global network, because IGDA, like I said, chapters all around the world, tons and tons of really great people out there. And with this chapter, we can try to kind of connect a lot of Philadelphia to that larger organization. If you are interested in learning more about IGDA as an organization itself, I encourage you to learn more over at http://www.igda.org, where you can learn about the IGDA in full, as well as see what it takes to become a member. Again, the membership is it's a yearly due of about $60, less if you are a student. And you get a bunch of different benefits, a lot of really cool ones, including my personal favorite, access to the official IGDA Discord, where you can connect with thousands of game developers and start chatting with people and building your network right away. So be sure to do that. So that's the IGDA. That's what the IGDA is, and that's kind of what our function inside of the IGDA is all about. Just as a reminder, we do have a code of conduct. We at our website, philly.igda.org, you can learn more about our organization, learn about the other members of the board, because we have a full staff board of about 5 individuals, all of which are here today. Hello, board. And also on the site, that's where you can find the code of conduct. And the code of conduct essentially just says what the general rules of communication among our different channels are, and at IGDA-based events, and the kinds of things that we would like to see our community kind of carry forward even outside of our events. If you, within our events, you feel that you feel uncomfortable or anyone has kind of violated that code of conduct, you can email us at igdaphilly@gmail.com. And again, if you go to the website, you can read that code of conduct in full. But the basic idea is to respect each other in your communications, both when we do these events digitally, whether you're on our Discord, or when we do our in-person events. IGDA Philadelphia seeks to create a fully diverse and safe space for everyone, and that's the idea behind the code of conduct. So again, if there's any issues that you have within our community, please do not hesitate to email us at igdaphilly@gmail.com. Also, be sure to follow us on social media. We have our Facebook page, our Twitter account, the previously aforementioned website, philly.igda.org, where you can learn about all of the great events that we're doing. We also have a YouTube page where we post our content. as well as a Discord channel for you to communicate with all of the wonderful members of our community. If you want to join that Discord server, just please send an email over to igdaphilly@gmail.com. We will get you access to that. But usually on these social media channels is how you can find out about our events that we have coming up. Again, they're every second Tuesday, but if you want to learn about when exactly they are and what speaker we might have or what we're going to be doing at the event, the best way to do that is to follow our social media. We are also starting to post on the Fellowship of Philly Games game development calendar. We have been putting our events, listing them there. We can plan to continue to do so as well. Really quickly, just need to communicate to Rob really quickly. I am hearing from the Q&A panel that the chat is currently disabled for other folks. Yes, okay, Rob sees it. All right, you should all now be able to chat with each other and say hi to each other, which is great. Yes, okay, so cool. That is IGDA. That's who we are. Let's talk about 2023. So we mentioned last year that our goals were to try and expand our monthly content, to increase the presence and promotion of local events and conventions, and try to get folks to know more about our organization through other places such as that one. We wanted to continue expanding our social media presence to try and get better outreach. We wanted to continue working on the aforementioned Philly Makes Games website and continue to get that developed and try to get that to a soft launch. We'll talk a little bit more about that tonight. And just in general, do an increased effort to share and promote local games. So these were our goals. I would like to talk a little bit more and expand on them this throughout this presentation. And then at the end of tonight's proceedings, I'd love to do kind of a Q&A with the folks here, as well as just kind of get your comments and ideas rolling on how we can better serve these goals. Because a lot of these goals are kind of like our long-term goals, right? These are things that we want to do, not just, in the last year, but also what we want to do next year, what we want to do 5 years from now, 10 years from now, which includes just getting more content out there, continue to promote local games and make sure that those get into those wider networks we talked about a little bit earlier. Like a lot of these goals are ones that we plan to do every single year. So we want to talk a little bit about what we did this year and what we can continue to do and how we can make it better in future years. And I'm very, very curious to hear your ideas out there. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about what some of the things that did actually happen this year were. And we, of course, did our monthly content. This has always been a big part of this organization, even before my time on the board as chair. One of the goals of Philadelphia IGDA for many, many years is to try to have monthly content, which includes speakers and sometimes workshops and panels and roundtables. And we had some really, really good talks this year. I was really, really happy with a lot of this communication. We had right at the beginning of the year, Rachel Sema from Firaxis Games, who did a really wonderful talk on how to survive burnout in games. One of those mental health topics that, doesn't really get enough attention, even though, we talk a lot about, burnout that does exist in the game industry. Ways to actually resolve it or treat it tend to kind of fall on deaf ears. So that talk was really, really very well welcomed and also very, very good. Highly, highly recommend checking that talk out. Pictured on the screen is Grant Andrew Irvin, who he was, I have it listed here as Epic Games. He was from Epic Games, but by the time he gave our talk, he was over at PUBG. We talked a little bit about his journey through the game industry, starting from school to going to QA to eventually being a design lead on PUBG. And those kind of postmortems on someone's career are always very helpful and very useful. Really enjoyed that talk. We had a bunch of really cool things from our community, which I thought was really, really good. Of course, we did something that I think is going to become a yearly tradition from now on, which is the Teach Me Something in 5 Minutes panel, where essentially our board here and the other members of our community who signed up to do kind of like mini talks on things that they wanted to teach over again, like in a quick kind of rapid presentation style. So this included, for example, I gave a talk on the ways that games are actually inspired by live productions such as theater, and how games could continue to learn more from theater rather than like a lot of people think about a lot of the big budget AAA games as being more like movies. I tend to think of them as kind of like puppet theater almost, and I talked a little bit about that as just kind of an example of some of the really cool topics that we've had. We had like RJ Reyes talk about getting funding from finding different options for indies to find funding. They did a really cool talk on that. Just as like a couple of the examples from that. And I think we're going to continue to do that because I love doing that. I love hearing all the different ideas from different members of the community, and at the bare minimum, you also get us on the board to chat about some things too, which I think is always really useful. We also had one of our big panels of the year. One of our more recent events was the Early Experiences panel, where we got Rachel Sema back. We got Nuka Dusklow from Deck Nine, Riley Castle from PHL Collective / UArts, Sophia Nelson, Tommy Wren. We had the essentially members of the Philadelphia community that are relatively young in their career, like less than 5 years to less than 5 years, talk about like what their experience has been and how they've kind of progressed from this point and where they think they're going, and just give general advice to the community. That was a really, really good panel. One thing that we added to this year that I think worked out very well, both for our community as well as for our board's kind of sanity, if you don't mind me saying so, was that we started doing more Discord hangouts with our community. Things that were less reliant on finding a big speaker and making a big production, and more just about kind of discussing current events that were happening, sharing our work, getting more networking done so that people can like meet more people inside of their community. We even started playing games. We did a really cool thing where we sort of played an old PC game called Myst and tried to solve it together as a community. That I thought was really, really fun. These events really worked out really well because, again, it gave us a little bit more time to they take a little less time to put together, which is really, really nice. But also, they also provide, again, kind of that increased opportunity for networking, especially since we have been so focused on digital events as opposed to physical events because of the ongoing pandemic. And when we start talking about some of the future things we want to do, we'll talk a little bit more about like what our plans are for physical meetings and such, but actually being able to kind of get members of our community like together even in a digital space and to kind of talk and chat and share their work, I think has been really, really good. So if any of this sounds interesting to you, we're going to continue to do these kind of Discord hangout meetings. And I actually think that we'll in the future utilize Discord a little bit more, because I think that there are some things that Discord is a little bit more suited towards doing, such as roundtables, where we can have someone who's kind of leading a discussion, but the conversation is open to every one of our users. So highly, highly recommend joining our Discord if you haven't already. And unlike the IGDA National Discord, you do not have to be an IGDA member to join it. All you have to do is be a member of the Philadelphia games community, or at least adjacent to the community if you are formally from Philadelphia or a friend of Philadelphia. If you want to join the Discord, just send over an email to igdaphilly@gmail.com. We will get you an invitation link post haste. So yeah, that's kind of our big thing that we did for the year. What I want to talk a little bit more about in depth is kind of talk about some of those goals that we mentioned, about kind of the increased ability of getting the word out there and talking, and more about like kind of building up this community a little bit more. So I actually had intended for this slide to have pictures from, say, the Fellowship of Philly Games meeting, for example. And I was kind of running low on time. I kind of came back from MagFest and had to like hastily put this together. So I kind of grabbed the stock images and everything. So just kind of pretend that all these like young people hanging out in this studio, that's us, right? That's us, like maybe in this building, like right here or something. So quick shout out to, again, Fellowship of Philly Games, especially to AJ Easterday for kind of putting that organization together. If you haven't, Rob, you're not too far off from what the name of that stock photo actually is. Fellowship of Philly Games was a really, really great initiative, which AJ put together to try and get members, leaders in the Philadelphia community, both the academic leaders, such as the people running the individual games program, the other groups in the city, so including myself representing IGDA, as well as Kotaro, who represented the Philly Game Mechanics, Nicole Amato running the Game Makers Guild, which is kind of the board game section, and kind of talking about some of the things that we wanted to do as a community and try to figure out what our shared goals were, which I think is a really important thing. And I'm really looking forward to the next meeting, when that may be, where we can kind of continue that conversation. But if you remember, if you were there, if you were at the Fellowship of Philly Games talk, you might remember that I spoke quite a bit about wanting to kind of have an increased focus on community. And this is something that I have been thinking about a lot, not just like even before we had the Fellowship of Philly Games. There was a reason why I kind of focused so much on this idea of community. I've been thinking about, looking at Philly game mechanics and how their community has changed and evolved and kind of transformed throughout the pandemic, and kind of like they're really building things in a really, really positive direction that I think is really inspiring. So I've really been thinking about like this idea of community, and because I think we always say that's kind of what Philadelphia is well known for. Not a lot of people outside of Philadelphia knows that Philadelphia has a lot of people making games, but for various reasons there are a lot of people making games, so we kind of need to like support each other a lot, and the only way to do that is to kind of build community. That is something that like IGDA Philly has been wanting to do for a long time. And we talked about um, in the previous slide, wanting to kind of help push and promote increased presence on local made games, local developers, and kind of getting that out to the wider network, which is kind of, if you remember, like if you've seen my tenure as chair, has always been my long-term goal. How successful we have been doing that we have been with that. And let me stress that I think that this is no one's fault in particular, but I do think that there's kind of been like it's kind of been a mixed set of results. I think we're very good at getting people excited. We just kind of have to do the follow through. And the problem with that is that like people like myself are very busy, and we're spinning a lot of plates, and we're trying to do a lot of these things at once. So part of my goal with today's town hall and talking to all of you is to kind of start a discussion on like how we can all get involved and start to kind of build this community up, and how can we better serve you, and better serve this idea, and kind of like not just like do the work ourselves, not just like getting that and doing the job of increasing the promotion, but how can we like build tools that allow everyone in our community to also continue to promote local games and promote local developers? How can we kind of work together in this space to try and like get that overall goal of promoting our games and supporting each other? So one way that we'd like to do that is our online content. Now, we have a YouTube channel which has a lot of our old and past talks. Now, one thing I will say is that a lot of the talks from this year have yet to have gone on that page, and that is totally been like me. I am the person who edits and cuts these videos together and needs to get them all uploaded. And one of my goals, and we'll talk more about this on the next slide, is to just get it done. I think that over this next weekend or the weekend after that, I don't really want to put a complete date on it just yet, but I do want to get that content up there as soon as possible, including this meeting. At the very least, I want to get this meeting so we can get this out to the wider community up as soon as possible. Like again, probably over the weekend, because I still have my classes I still need to teach. I still have game development I need to do. But I do want to continue growing that YouTube channel, because I know a lot of people can't be here. I know this time doesn't work for everyone. So it is very, very important to me that we have this backlog, that we have this way for you to be able to go out and check out these videos at your leisure. So I do want to make sure that we do that. With that said, I highly, highly recommend that you subscribe. please subscribe to the YouTube channel, because if you subscribe, we actually get more benefits. One of the things that I would actually absolutely love is to start streaming our meetings there. Would absolutely love to start streaming the meetings to our YouTube channel, but you need something like 1,000 subscribers to make that happen, which is 100% doable. We do actually have like quite a bit. Like our I think our Twitter right now has about 1,500 followers, I want to say. It seems like an insurmountable goal, but I don't actually think it is. So I really would like to do that. So if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, please do. And I'll say all the things: ring the bell, comment, engage on the content. It always helps us out. So, but that being said, I do want to make clear that I do think that the YouTube channel is going to be a very, very important factor in getting the word out on the things that we are doing. Not just again, we don't just do content such as like the talks. We do things with the community occasionally. Back in December of this year, it's not the first time that we've done that. We have hosted the Camden County College video game showcase, where the juniors and seniors show off the projects that they have been working on. We did that again this year. It was one of our first in a long time in-person events, and we still were able to stream it via Zoom. And my plan is to continue that as well. We'll continue streaming these things to the larger community, either via our Zoom, via YouTube, hope maybe both in the future, maybe some other things that we'll do in down the line. So we're going to continue to kind of focus on online content. Thank you, Mike. Oh, thank you, Michael. This is something that we plan to do, to talk more about with IGDA National. I have talked to them in the past. They have talked to us about opportunities of streaming our content to the IGDA National page, to maybe even find speakers that can speak to the more global audience and actually do like an IGDA town hall. I've got nothing to announce there just yet. This is not me saying officially 100% that that's happening. But I do want to make it clear that it is something that we've been talking about and could be down the pipeline. And it's one of the kind of goals that we kind of want to build towards coming soon. So with that, I want to kind of use that as a good way of transitioning and talking about the hashtag Philly Makes Games initiative and our just general social media presence. And some of you might remember these slides. I've used these slides before, and I'm using them again because we absolutely want to continue this initiative, and a lot of the stated goals of it haven't changed. But I'm also using these slides again to kind of emphasize the point of how we can actually go about to make this work. So for those of you who don't know, hashtag Philly Makes Games is sort of our calling card / initiative / this isn't something IGDA specific. This is something that we would like to see the entire community do, which is to just kind of, again, promote each other virally through the internet, using this hashtag Philly Makes Games. Now I know social media networks of all varieties, not just the one I think everyone that's in everyone's heads right now, are kind of going through kind of a weird transitionary state that we're not 100% sure what's happening with that yet. But at the moment, I still think that this is kind of the best way for us to kind of uplift each other, is to kind of just talk and share the projects that we're doing. And I'd like to get a little bit better with that with our Twitter page as general. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about what some of the challenges are in a little bit. And some of you probably know that hashtag Philly Makes Games is not just a social media tag. It's actually a website that we have been talking about building for a while. Our plan has been to make a wiki style resource for the community to be able to find and share who are the active developers in our area and their projects. It will be we want it to have the ability for developers themselves to submit their studio and their projects for the site archival. We want it to have content from major studio. We have content from major studios already in our Google Drives ready to go. We want to have that available at launch, and we are encouraging as much content from developers and studios early on. But we also want this site to be open to all of you as well. Like, again, it is sort of meant to be a wiki, so the community will be able to go and add data to it. Now, there are some challenges with that, and I'll talk about those in a second. But this has always been the goal of the Philly Makes Games website. And in the long term, what we'd really like for it to kind of become is not just a list of active games. What I've kind of talked, when I've talked to the short term goal with people on an individual level, I've kind of said that it's like Moby Games, but just for Philadelphia. Right. So you can see like what the studio is, all the games that they've worked on. And I'd like to not just get active studios, but in the future, I'd like to get some of the other studios that have been around in the past, what all of their games are, biographies and such for the people who've worked there, as long as that person is okay with that being up there. And everyone would, of course, have, someone who could have the veto right, of course, to get it off of there if they wanted to. And ultimately, what I would really, really like to do is then take this this site that we have built in the future once it's done and kind of use it as sort of a template that then we can like show to other communities that if you want to kind of I'm just going to steal what Rob just said in the chat, encyclopedia, create an encyclopedia of the game dev history of your local community. Here is the template, here is what it was and how we did it. Now again, these are long-term goals, things that we want to see in the future. Now I think that when I presented this back in 2021, we had plans to kind of launch within the next couple of weeks. And for reasons that we don't have to dig into here, that didn't happen. And the website has kind of sat on the back burner for a little bit, despite our best efforts. And again, that's because the website has mostly just been the efforts of the 5 people that are on our board. And again, all of us, despite our best intentions and our best efforts, are very busy people, and we kind of get lost in the different things that we're doing. I said I'm teaching, I'm making multiple video games, I'm trying to get these YouTube videos uploaded, and at a certain point, you can't really just expect, you just can't do everything yourself, right? And I don't think that if I could say one of the things that I could have done better, one of the bigger opportunities for me is to just be willing to kind of ask for help and to talk to all of you and see how we can get this done. Um, I was actually particularly inspired because I might have mentioned a little bit earlier, but just in case I didn't, I went to MagFest this past weekend, and I was kind of not sure what I was going to do with these slides yet, because there were so many things going on. I knew we had to talk about these things and kind of have like an open dialogue, and I didn't know kind of how to present that. And I went to not just one, but 2 of the panels that were being hosted by the Video Game History Foundation, which is a great organization that I think a lot of you here know that I highly support. And right now, they are actually building an archive of all of the things that are in their library that they have built over the past few years that the organization has been around. And it's a huge, massive undertaking. And oftentimes, people come to the foundation and ask, "How can we help?" And the answer that they give is just do it, like just get it done. Actually, and in particular, talking to their librarian there and telling them about the project, he basically said, get the crap version done first and then build from there. Because once you have the crap version done, it's a lot easier to just keep building. So again, to me, because Salvador has been streaming some of that content, it's often hilarious. Yes, absolutely. So to me, I think that is really kind of what just needs to happen, is that we just need to get it done. And for me, as again, kind of the chair of this organization who's been talking about this for so long and wanting to spearhead it, I think that in order for me to do that, I kind of have to recognize that, I have a lot of things going on, including, making sure that we have our monthly content and everything, and continuing to get the organization together, that in order to actually make this happen, we're gonna need some help. And I'm kind of already in the early stages of that. Like, I've been talking to a couple of people, and I don't want to say their names or announce anything just yet. But I have been talking to a couple of people who have a little bit more experience with websites to try and get something launched. I've been talking to people about how exactly, like, what the content should look like and how it should be displayed on the site. Like, a lot of that, like, I've been having those conversations kind of in the background. And I think one of the things that I am going to do personally to make it better is to make sure that, I don't let that lapse, that I don't forget to get back in touch with the people and keep the conversation rolling, because that's part of what it is just talking, just actually keeping the communication going is like half the battle, right? So that's something that I'm going to do things better. But with that being said, for those of you here who are interested in this project and kind of want to see it continue, we need some things. We're going to need some help. And these are things that we might not need immediately. Like we might have to like get that kind of like bare bones structure of the website, or at least know that it's coming before we need things like data gatherers and data entry. We're also going to at some point need a logo, like an actual logo for this initiative, for this project. And I want to be 100% clear on this, on a couple of points when talking about wanting to actually have a logo for the Philly Makes Games, something we can display on the website and such. Firstly is that this is not the beginnings of a completely separate organization or anything. Right now, like there are a number of different organizations in Philly. I don't think that necessarily we need one more. I kind of want this website to, even though I'm spearheading it and the members of the board are helping me with it, I don't really see Philly Makes Games as a strictly IGDA Philly thing. I think of it as a community resource and a community tool that IGDA Philadelphia is to help building. But I want it to be the communities. That's my vision, that this tool is something of the communities. And with that being said, it is meant to be a tool, not another group, not another organization. But so understand that even though we're looking to, kind of brand it, we're not looking for it to be like another organization. It's going to be something for everyone. It's going to be IGDA Phillies, it's going to be the fellowships, it's going to be Philly Makes Games, or Philly Game Mechanics, excuse me, etc. We're also going to need, I think we also need help with the social media and getting content and hype people. Again, like I've never been a community manager myself, and one of the challenges has been that I have access, like if you see the Twitter, the IGDA Twitter, and you see the announcements for our upcoming content and such on that Twitter, that is me. That is 100% me doing that. And like Rob has done a really good job at keeping our Discord aware. Jason's done a really good job of keeping Philly Game Mechanics aware. But again, like what I really want the IGDA Twitter to be is, again, I really want it to be this space where we can like uplift other Philly games and tell people about the cool things that are coming in this project. And I'm on Twitter probably more than I should be, especially lately, but I'm not on it enough, right? And I would like to extend our content beyond Twitter. Twitter is just the one that I've used for years and know the best. If we wanted to have an IGDA Philly TikTok or an Instagram and people thought that would be useful, I'd love to have that. I'd love to see that content. I just can't be the one who's hosting it. So if any of these things that you see here sound interesting to you at all, please send an email over to igdaphilly@gmail.com and we'll get in touch. We'll talk a little bit more, because I would like to see all of these things happen, especially as we're kind of building like the bare bones version of the website. So the energy that I am taking into 2023 essentially is what I said was the advice of the Video Game History Foundation, which is just get it done. And that energy, I'm, again, pertaining to everything that I've been doing. And as far as IGDA goes, that includes our YouTube content and that includes launching Philly Makes Games. Now, that being said, what I don't want to do is what I did in previous years, which is say, oh, it's coming in X number of weeks, or it's coming in X number of months. I'm not going to put a date on it. I'm definitely not going to put a date on it because that's just increased pressure, which can also go unfortunately in the completely wrong direction and then just make it not get done even more. No, we're going to get it done and it will be done when it's done. That's the plan. So that's my motto right now, to kind of steal what Mike just said in the chat, is get it done. And even that I'm stealing from Frank Cifaldi over at Video Game History Foundation. And in order to do that, just to recap, it's going to mean me reaching out to the people I need to reach out to talk about getting volunteers, to talk about building the website itself. And it also means asking for help and kind of letting you all know that, like, this, we want this to be a community effort, and we want to kind of build the community. The best way to do that is to just be honest with all of you and say, hey, we need help. And if you're willing to do that and you have the time and effort, please feel free to pitch in. Again, like, I want to be very clear that what you're seeing, very clear, like I mentioned, that we need a logo, that, like, this is a volunteer organization. We are volunteers. I don't necessarily want, like, um I don't necessarily want to ask for free labor, and I think that's kind of been one of my hangups in the past. But as a volunteer organization and to help build our community, that's kind of what you need. It is kind of a volunteer effort. So if you think it is worth it to you to be a volunteer and you have that time to pitch in, we would appreciate it. We would really, really appreciate it. So again, one more time, if you think you can help out, please just send an email over to igdaphilly@gmail.com. And we will talk, and we will get in touch with you, and we'll talk more about it in the future. And yeah, hopefully that means that very, very soon, well, not very, very soon, but in the near future, we can actually get this website and make it a reality. So that's kind of what I wanted to say about that. And that's kind of the bulk of really what I wanted to talk about today. There are some things that I think we can talk about a little bit more in detail, and I especially want to talk about it with all of you as a community when we open up to kind of a Q&A / roundtable / whatever you want to call it, about some of these things, which includes, what do we want to do about our events? So, like I said, we've been pretty cautious, and we've been keeping most of our events digital over Discord and such. I'd love to go back in person. I'd love to come back in person, and I'm going to be 100% honest with you. And this is me telling you this as Adrian Sandoval. This is not like, this is kind of my opinion on things. It's not necessarily the entire board's opinion, and I want them to kind of weigh in when we open it up a little bit more too. My personal opinion is that if we are, I do want to see physical events come back. There are some extra logistical challenges, which includes speakers. It'll be harder to schedule speakers when we expect them to kind of come to a physical space. So that has to be taken into account, and some might not want to come to a physical space because for the reasons of the pandemic, which I think is totally understandable. And we can do a thing where we can, like, have them stream to a projector and have you all meet. It would not be the first time that we did that even prior to the pandemic. Totally open to do that. My personal feeling is that if we are going to do that, there are going to be some pretty strict restrictions. I would prefer every mask will be required. Proof of vaccination would be required. We're all going to be probably, like, in a tight space, like sitting next to each other. So I think that would be really, really important. But I would like to kind of get those physical events back in some capacity. And I don't think that they would be all of every event, right? We would still do our community hangouts on Discord, for example. We would still do the occasional Zoom event. But yeah, so more great events. We're still going to plan our events around every month, and we're going to work towards that content. Also, in that note, and with that note being said too, another thing you can always email about us is let us know if you have a speaker or an idea for an event that you'd like to see, or if you would like to be a speaker. That would also be very cool. Again, we mostly look for people who are in our community, but if we think it could add value to our community, it doesn't necessarily have to be someone from Philly or the Philly adjacent area either. Rob had mentioned in the chat earlier that we had Colombe from Bungie talk about their kind of narrative, the way that they structure their narrative and prepare their narrative for Destiny 2, which is a live service game, which was a really, really good talk. So it doesn't necessarily have to be someone from Philly, but always feel free to suggest things or ask for speakers or things like that, or even request to be a speaker. I'd love that. So that's another thing that you all could do if you'd like to help us out. Yes, we are going to continue working towards launching Philly Makes Games. We've talked about that, I think, for a bit. Again, I would like to try to do a little bit of a greater variety of content, especially as we're kind of slowly opening things back up. We have talked about doing workshops. such as like tutorials for maybe a very different game engines, or tutorials for a specific focused task, something art related, something programming related. So I think that would be really good as a future event, and one of those things I think works a little bit better in person. We could do a Discord version of it as well too. More roundtables. I kind of missed the roundtables. We did a couple of those a couple of years back, where we actually just kind of have you all kind of discuss a topic with a leader in a particular area kind of being the moderator for the event. I think those would be good. So yeah, getting kind of a greater variety of content I think would be great. Um, again, like big shout out again to AJ for establishing the fellowship for this big one here, which is working with the local groups to try again to work towards community goals. Because a lot of the things I didn't talk about, because there's really not a lot to kind of announce just yet, but something that's kind of in the pipeline is actually like working towards things like getting funding for studios, and trying to find what are the best ways to do that, whether it's through local governments, private organizations, those kinds of things, and what are the best ways to go about that. Do we want to lobby for certain political actions related to game development, of course, with the city of Philadelphia? All of these things are again longer conversations, and the fellowship has really helped kickstart that conversation. I really, again, I've already said this once, but I'll say it again, really looking forward to continuing that conversation. And ultimately, the biggest thing that we want to hear from is you. Again, if local community is kind of our big stated goal, then what you all want to see from us is really the most important thing. And as we kind of like take in and assess what the opinions and the feelings of everyone that are here, and start to kind of figure out like what is going to be the best way to enact that feedback, that kind of helps us steer the ship for the future. So again, like, and this is another one of those goals that we try to do every single year, and I believe we've delivered on a lot of it in the future, is to kind of hear from all of you and figure out what you want. And to me, that's kind of the most important part of any town hall. So I say we get to it. Thank you all so much for hearing me rant. I really appreciate it. I hope that this has helped a lot of people out. You can see that I actually kept this as 2021, unfortunately. But yeah, again, one more time, let's all get it done, and I really look forward to hearing from you and your thoughts on how we can best accomplish that. Thank you all so much, and yeah, I'm gonna open up to Q&A. You kind of have options here. You could either we have the Q&A panel down below. If you want to use that to type in some questions to me, you absolutely can. We could also open this up. It's sort of a small group tonight, including a lot of members of the board. We could open this up and get people, if you want to be on mic, and ask your questions in like a proper town hall style. I kind of leave that up to all of you, and also to our lovely tech person behind the scenes, Rob, and how we want to kind of structure this now.
Hello from Vanna White. If people want to raise their digital hand in the participant panel, I can enable your mic and you can talk, or you can type in the chat or the Q&A. You have multiple ways depending on your level of engagement comfort.
Okay, I do have the chat open. Well, while we're kind of waiting on that, let me ask. I'm actually going to start here. I'm going to ask Rob, what do you think as another member of our board? Okay, no problem. I'll start with Rob. What do you think? And do you agree with everything I said? Do you think there are other things that we could do? Oh, actually, Kyle also asking what examples of community involvement include. I think is a great question.
Well, let's get to Kyle's.
Yeah.
I think any way we can engage each other. I think that's why I was really excited about what AJ is doing with the fellowship. Philly Makes Games is it's more an attitude than a thing. No, it's not that Philly doesn't already make games. They already do. Tom Sharp's here, Gossamer Games, PHL Collective, multiple studios have risen up out of the Philadelphia area. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's just all happening in isolation. I think that's what AJ saw. And, it's like Philly Game Mechanics is over here, IGDA is over here. So I think, Kyle, I would say that community involvement is just engaging any one of these organizations, not just IGDA here. I'm glad that you're here tonight. That's awesome. Um, but I think the thing that I also talked about at the fellowship game event was that all of these organizations are volunteer driven, and we need more volunteers to accomplish more things. We have ambition, and we need fuel for that fire. We need people to come and stoke those flames. So, and it doesn't even have to necessarily be the things that we're talking about. If there's something that somebody wants to make happen, come and talk to us. Come talk to us. Talk to fellowship. Talk to, game mechanics or whatever, and see who is maybe the best platform to do the thing that you want to do, whether it be game jams or speaking or any number of things. So pick a target and engage.
Yeah, I'm gonna and I'll use that as kind of to jump off to again echo Frank Cifaldi, which again, who's just kind of said, if there's something that you personally are strong and passionate about, or something that you think would best work, then the advice is to just do it, right? To just kind of get it started. And even if that includes, like, say I have this idea, it's kind of half formed, I want to talk to someone about it, you send an email to IGDA Philly or tag me on Discord or something, or tag any of us on the board, and kind of chat with the idea and just start chatting about it. Like, that to me is community involvement. Community involvement is seeing a cool game from one of your friends or someone local from the Philadelphia area that you like, and just retweeting it or quote tweeting it and with the hashtag Philly Makes Games. Like, that's community involvement. But it really, again, like, and as far as, like, again, kind of the direct things that we're asking about, things such as, helping out with social media, or helping us out with other with future events, panels that you'd like to see, like, even just kind of like getting your voice heard, I think is also a kind of a direct way of community involvement.
Hey, AJ.
Hello, hello. Is my audio coming through all right?
Yes, it is.
Lovely. Um, Something I've been thinking about, Adrian, I think you mentioned this when we first spoke about Makes Games, is having more overlap between the large student community in the area and the non-student community, because you have essentially free labor of students coming in who need to learn to program websites, need to learn critical writing skills and research skills. Do you think Philly Makes Games is inevitably going to pull from that student pool as well, to like have classes based around this?
Oh, that was something that me and Rob had talked about a lot, was actually trying to get our students, like in the game history classes and such, to kind of like contribute to the site by doing, research and such. I do think that is absolutely something that we can explore. One of the tricky parts with that, because there is a tricky part to it, but I think it's totally doable, is that, researching thing is it's a skill, and it's a skill that people spend many, many years going to school for, your library sciences and whatnot. So one of the challenges, I think, would be is that our history classes would also then have to kind of teach how to research something and how to research it accurately, and make that a part of the lesson plan. Particularly tricky with Drexel, where you get like the 10 weeks and you have to kind of like figure out how to like work that in with the other lectures and the other knowledge that you kind of want to have in there. But I do think that is totally a doable thing, and something that I would like to see more. In the broader sense, again, because I think that Philadelphia in particular is such a heavily student community, with so many schools that all have game development programs, and the ultimate goal of Philly Makes Games being a community project that's kind of driven by community members. I think like student involvement in that is kind of inevitable and kind of necessary, because again, that is such a heavy part of our community. I also realized I didn't talk about moderators. Like that's also going to be a really heavy and important thing that we'll need volunteers for. Like, because again, like if we're going to have people just kind of like submitting this being a community project and having people be able to submit. Like if you go on I mentioned Moby Games earlier. You go on Moby Games and look up for me. I've had students actually come up to me and ask if I worked on Call of Duty games. Because apparently my Moby Games page and the Moby Games page for another Adrian Sandoval who has worked in Call of Duty are one page right now. And there's no one moderating that. So that's another like quick, I just want to kind of throw that in and tie it into this question that like with people submitting content, including students and trying to make sure that we have quality things there. Moderation is also going to be really, really important and would be very, very helpful once the site's up.
Cool.
Does that answer
Yeah.
your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think one of the things also though, Adrian, is that, you know, what you said earlier about just get the junk version up first, warts and all, and then we can go from there and make it better and make it nicer. You want to take reasonable precautions, but you don't, we don't have to make it perfect.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's one of the things that's been a challenge. So I'm going to add Nancy into the mix because raise their hand, but AJ, you can stay. You got your hand going. Hey, Nancy.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. So I'm a student at U Arts, a game design student. And I think, you know, like this sort of thing is like really exciting to see, especially for Philadelphia. I do have like, I don't know how to say it, because I don't think like this is like the right organization to say like maybe like this could happen, but I think to get even more to get recognized and, you know, to have this organization be seen, I think we could probably, you know, look into elementary schools, middle schools, or even high schools to get people involved in this, especially younger children and teenagers, because went to I went to school, you know, like within the city, and there was never really interesting. Nothing, pardon me. There was never anything that I really connected to when it came to video games, and it really sucked. But there were a ton of people that I always knew that wanted to work in games, and we just never had that sort of connection. So I think somehow getting, you know, like a couple people from this organization to say, hey, maybe we could talk to a couple of schools to see something for after school students, maybe something like that, perhaps, just to, you know, like show the younger people, especially within like the inner city, to say, hey, this is something that you could do, you know, instead of like having kids, you know, like out in the street at nighttime, you know, have kids inside, you know, coding on the computer, or, you know, just having like something more positive within their lives, and, you know, just that sort of thing. So yeah, that's all really.
No, that's an awesome thing. I know as I run the program at Drexel, and so I get contacts every once in a while from local schools that want to have somebody come and talk to their students about game development. And sometimes I get directly involved, but sometimes I make that an opportunity for one of our student clubs. We have a Drexel game developer group or whatever. We have them get involved in that, and our students go and talk to the middle schoolers or high schoolers. And I've always enjoyed when that happens. I think there's, you know, to me, this is an example of how a single individual can suddenly make something happen. Because if you go back to the school that you came out of, and there's a faculty member there that you know, or an administrator that you know, and just sort of, hey, would you be interested in this? Is there a career day or a class that this might be interesting for? And they say, yeah, who do you got? And then you can come back and say, who's available? And it can be anywhere from one of the faculty or the board members here, or any number of different people I think would be really interested. Sometimes the challenge, though, is just sort of breaking that ice, breaking that moment of friction, and just saying they're interested, these people are available, and maybe we can get them together. So, you know, who do you know back at your old school?
All right. Well, thank you very much. I'll definitely take that into consideration.
Think
So,
about it.
all right. Well, thank you very much.
That's an excellent idea.
No, it's a great suggestion. I was just going to add really quickly that like one of the cool things that I did when I was at Island Officials is that Ryan Morrison would actually have us go to elementary schools to kind of show hands-on tangrams, which was an elementary school level game meant for elementary school kids, but to also talk to them about, hey, we make games. These are the things that we do. And you know, it's funny because I always enjoyed doing that with the group, that I never really thought about that as something that we should be doing here. And I think that that is a complete oversight. That is absolutely something we should be doing, is connecting with the non-college levels. And I think because there are so many colleges in this area is why it kind of slipped my mind. So I've AJ, I've copy and pasted what you mentioned in the chat to as one way to get that started. I think I'll talk to Ryan too about the schools in the New Jersey area and how we could assist with that. So that excellent idea. Love that, Nancy. Thank you so much.
No problem.
AJ, I want to get back to you really quickly, but I also would just like to offer to anyone else who's out there, including our own board members, if you have comments, questions, or concerns, while people are chatting, also feel free to queue things up in the Q&A while communication is happening, and we can get more questions in. I think that would work out very, very well. Hey, AJ.
Hi again. Something I was thinking about, you said before, like other platforms for communication or just for like different projects in general. I think the strength of platforms like TikTok is not necessarily individual creators, but how viral a video can go and how hashtags can start trending. And I was thinking about what you were saying before with getting things off the ground with projects like Philly Makes Games. And it might possibly be worthwhile to start Philly Makes Games as a TikTok account where people can either post to that hashtag or submit videos, and then you guys post those videos just to get traction going. And then eventually when a website starts, you could just have that account link people off to the website as a way to get like younger students involved, as well as like older people on TikTok involved.
Yeah, I think that I like that idea a lot. And I've actually been seeing more and more game developers starting their TikTok accounts. And so that gives me kind of a model to look at and be like, okay, this is what, you know, sharing game footage over a TikTok kind of looks like. And then hopefully we can get other developers who are a little bit more TikTok minded than myself, who has never even started a TikTok. I think that that's a good way to kind of like try and kick that off. So I think that's an excellent idea of a Philly Makes Games TikTok. That again, we can kind of spread, or at least like get the hashtag trending and get like more and more eyes on more and more game sites, and then hopefully in the future the website. Great idea.
To me, the critical element is, you know, you've got to have somebody who becomes the focal point of driving that content, encouraging people who already have TikTok accounts to use the hashtag. And but then if we establish an account, who's going to drive that, right? And make sure that there is a regular quantity of content going there. Hello, Thomas.
Hello.
Hello. I just finish my thought is that there we go, another opportunity for a volunteer. Tom Sharp, you volunteered to run our TikTok account.
Oh my gosh. Look, if
I'm
there's
so sorry,
one
Tom.
thing in the world that I would hate, it's doing anything on TikTok. I haven't tweeted in I think over a year for our account, and I am off all social media entirely. So do not sign me up for TikTok, please. But I did want to loop back around and mention the meetings, because one thing that I think IGDA has historically done some of the best of across the city, I think, has been bringing in guest speakers and having them speak to the community. I think the platform you all have and the international backing of the organization and everything kind of makes that sometimes a little bit easier to draw in speakers, either locally or nationally or internationally. So I just wanted to say that I would love personally to see just continued guest speakers from across the industry, from across multiple topics, doing events for IGDA. And then also, I am personally also extremely eager to get back to in-person events, just across the board for everything. But one thing that I personally would really like to see out of IGDA, and I know it would involve more work, but I would really love to see continued online broadcasting or streaming via Zoom or a YouTube thing, or just whatever it is, some kind of, even if it is like a YouTube archive or something of that nature, for meetings, just because I feel like the type of content that IGDA Philly covers, is especially useful to have in like a video stream content, again, whether it's live or recorded. And so I know it's more work when you're trying to plan meetings and in-person events and things, but if there's any way of having either a stream or a video recording of the content, I think it's really well worth it. And I think is a huge resource to the community, having that content somewhere on the internet that people can go and watch. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you for mentioning that, and I absolutely 1000% agree. One thing I'm very, very proud of is the fact that we actually did get the Camden County College stream going, and that was very ad hoc. Like, it was something that we knew we wanted, but we weren't 100% sure how we were going to do it, and we kind of figured it out there at before the event started at Camden County. Very, very happy how that came out. I'm very proud that we were able to do that. The recording that was actually one of the IGDA recordings that's not in my hands. I actually have to get that from Ryan, so we can get that up on YouTube and get the archive up as soon as possible. That being said, I lost my train of thought. No. Oh, you have it, Rob. Okay, never mind. We do have it. I'll work on it. That being said, one of the things I will say that, like, yeah, a lot of the events from this past year didn't make it to our YouTube page, and that's 100% on me. I know Rob had pointed out on the chat that maybe we could get some video editing volunteers, and I think that might help when I have a backlog. I will say, like, considering that, like, I don't really, unless like the speaker asks me to, I don't really do a lot of chopping up. It's mostly just like, put a bumper on one end, put a bumper on the other, maybe cut out a little bit of like the beginning like AV check that we do. But for the most part, it's pretty it's not tough. I just get in my head a lot with all the other things that I have going on, so I just need to like put a reminder to just, again, get it done. So what I think is going to happen is either this weekend or next weekend, considering if Concrud catches up with me, I'm going to try and just kind of blitz them out as much as possible. And maybe what I do, because before I think my original plan was to like kind of like upload one and then social media it, and then upload another one and then social media it, and kind of dole it out. I think what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to upload all of them, and then do a social media call out like either every day or every other day, so it doesn't get like too absurd, and just get them up. I just got to get them up and get it done. And then once that's done, I just have to like get myself in the habit of just doing it as soon as possible after every meeting. So but yeah, 100% agree, and we'll continue to do that. I've been juggling the idea of buying a GoPro for myself, and then that'll make the streaming much easier when we do in-person events. Go ahead, Rob. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, some of them were, Discord hangouts, and that doesn't necessarily lend itself to, thrilling video content. But no, I absolutely agree, Tom. I mentioned earlier about the Cologne talk, and I've pointed countless students of mine to that talk because it changed the way I thought about narrative design as a possibility. Prior to that talk, I thought of it as a cool space that a lot of people wanted to be in, but was really hard to break into. And maybe you really needed to get a lit or writing or creative writing degree rather than a game dev degree. And Cologne just sort of blew that perspective apart and talked about how the next generation of narrative designers are really in a position to completely reinvent that space, and that writing is barely it's as a one small part of his job. So, but having that video archive that I can quickly point to people to, I literally just talked to a student earlier about it today, and they've already sent me an email saying, hey, I need that link, I want that thing. No, it isn't. It is an incredible resource. And I was just looking at the YouTube channel and going, yeah, we haven't posted a lot recently, but look at the stuff that we have done. I mean, if you haven't looked at the Earth Night talk, holy crud, I can't believe that lawsuits didn't come out of that talk.
I was going to say that I
frank.
constantly refer to that talk, and tell people to watch it.
It's one of the most brutally honest, sort of behind the scenes indie dev money talk that I've ever witnessed. It was really, and it's a great talk. It's so yeah, there's really good content. So we learned a lot about video recording and all that kind of stuff over the whole pandemic stuff. So I think we can keep that going. I think that the real challenge is content, right? It's always content. It's having the bandwidth to go and pursue potential speakers and make those connections. And so each one of us on the board tries to use our personal network and identify people. I go to Drexel alum all the time, but I think if somebody comes forward and says, if there's a critical mass of interest in a specific topic, we can probably hunt somebody down that can speak to that topic. But yeah, no, I think that is something that we've done pretty well. And I'm actually really proud of the board that although we've cut ourselves a lot of slack in this last year and allowed us to just sort of do Discord hangouts, we've still consistently, as a volunteer organization, where I've seen other volunteer organizations melt down. My wife's a part of one in the romance writing field that is struggling to stay relevant and active. I'm really proud that we've kept the content flowing.
Absolutely. AJ, I saw your comment, and I've got that copy and pasted for potential future meeting spaces, which is really, really cool. So I've got that copied down. Tom, do you have another thing?
No.
Okay.
Is my hand still? Oh, sorry. Yeah. I never lowered my digital hand. Y'all are doing a great job. Good job, everyone.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And you've done an amazing, you're one of the success stories. You've worked, I always hold you up as the poster child of squeezing blood from the Drexel stone, and how you were able to get lots and lots of different funding things to get Gossamer Games off the ground. But that you have continued to make your company grow and continue and find ways through grants and projects. It's impressive, right? What you're doing is really hard, and that you've kept it going is impressive. So you're part of the community, one of the success stories of the community, and I that's worth recognizing. Nicely done.
You.
Well done, you.
Thank you.
Agreed on all counts.
And certainly I always try and continue to point people towards, I mean, so many people who are interested in getting involved in game development, but don't know what is out there. And I always point to IGDA Philly as one of the first ones, in addition to Philly Game Mechanics and Game Makers Guild and all these things. And, it's so great, I think, having IGDA Philly as a resource for helping kind of preserve or document what's happening around the city. But again, also just for broadcasting, bringing in speakers and archiving those conversations and those talks. I think it's such a valuable resource for the community. So I always try and point people here. And one thing that I'm thinking about so much as we start hopefully slowly getting back to in-person events, just for everything, is the space that networking, or the role that networking has in everything. Because of course, we've kind of unfortunately lost, I think, a lot of that just virtually, because it's really, really hard to have like a virtual room where multiple people can freely talk to each other without kind of like shouting each other down. And so I know that in like in-person previous IGDA events, of course, the networking aspect is very real and very, very useful. And so as we get back into potentially doing more of that, I'm excited to see a little bit of a return for some of that. But again, also just for me, the actual like archival content and everything, as I said before, is very, very useful for me personally with this organization. So I'd again like to see that continue. But yeah, and I don't, the reason I bring up the networking thing is I don't know if that I feel like in the past there's been like meeting content kind of geared towards either having opportunities for that or like talking about how to network and like how all that stuff works at events and things of that nature. I don't know if it would be worth, as again, the world hopefully starts opening up a little bit more and we remain healthy and everything, and we start going to more events and conferences and things. I feel like I'm going to need a refresher just personally. I'm like, how do I interact with real human beings? Like in person, face to face, and just getting opportunities to do all that stuff. Sounds like it could potentially be a really great opportunity for this year. So just thinking about all of those things.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I got, especially as someone who got a crash course in it, going back to a con for the first time in forever this past weekend. Totally get that. And I actually have a talk in my back pocket, which might be my teach me something talk, if nothing else, about networking that I might do. But yeah, 100% agree with that. And we're going to yeah, we're gonna do it. We're like I said, we're just gonna do it. We're gonna make sure that we have, if we have the events, we're gonna make sure that they're healthy and safe, but also that we have the resource for folks who aren't able to make it who aren't able to make the meetings for whatever reason. Looking at Alex Kroll's comments in the chat right now about the pandemic is still a thing. It still exists, and we are very aware and very acknowledging of that. So yeah, I agree that having the remote option is absolutely vital, and we are going to commit to that. Some way, somehow, we're going to commit to that.
Yeah, I think that's, because it's also, it's partially pandemic, but also Alex is talking about, no need to drive into the city, right? I mean, I think again, there's been this, I hope a lot of the accessibility stuff that happened because of the pandemic, some of it sticks. I'm a little worried that some of it's rapidly being swept away, but I fully agree, Tom. That organic, hey, the meeting's not started yet, but everybody's here. That is prime chatting and networking time. And then, hey, the meeting's over. I don't want to leave yet. Stay and be in a conversation. That alone is really valuable time, but that doesn't translate to virtual. But I think we've learned enough that, especially if we identify a couple of persistent spaces, we'll probably go back to the Excite Center. But there's other spaces within Drexel I know we could utilize. We've already used UArts, but there might be more hoop jumping there sometimes. I don't know. I mean, I can't remember. Eric can speak to that more directly, but I think we have the ability. We could do it. And I think we have the ability to do a hybrid event. It's going to be imperfect, I'm sure, but I think in the spirit of the night, we can just do it and make a thing happen. And yeah, I think you're right. I think a lot of us will sort of have to practice on how to do it again. I was thinking about GDC, and faculty were talking earlier today about who wanted to go to SIGGRAPH in August. And, the pandemic will probably keep me away from both events, but I desperately miss both of them because they're such fun, vibrant events. Adrian and I were talking briefly before we opened up the room about he's coming in with this energy that he picked up from MagFest. And I remember having that myself the last time I went to a live event, and I haven't had that for a couple of years now. So yeah, we could use a little warm up.
Yeah, I agree. And let's me be 100% clear. The biggest reason I went to MagFest was because they had a strict mask policy and a strict vaccine policy, which other conventions do not have. One of the reasons I'm not going to GDC this year, among a couple other reasons, but one of them. And I got that question a lot if I was going to go to GDC or not. But I still like that tells me like how vital the in-person communication, how energizing can be. So again, like I really do want to get back to them.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of figuring out the best logistical way to do it.
I want to mention briefly something I think I brought up at the fellowship event, but I want to repeat it here because if I keep repeating it, then maybe it manifests at some point. But at some stage, one of the reasons people don't go to GDC is it's obnoxiously expensive. But imagine if we were like New York State that buys a 40 by 40 booth and populates it with a bunch of indie developers and companies and academic institutions, and that's their booth at GDC. Imagine if the state of Pennsylvania did that, or the city of Philadelphia did that. I would. That's a community effort to everybody pitches in a little bit, and the state pitches in a lot. Your tax dollars at work, and Philly Makes Games becomes a 20-foot banner at GDC, and that's making a statement. So I'd love to see something like that, but that's going to take work.
I'm writing down, how do we get a booth at GDC onto the list that I have here. I'll say that with that in mind, that IGDA National does, for those of you out there who are interested and don't want to eat the cost, IGDA National actually does have a volunteer program that can get you into GDC. It will just be an expo badge, which means that you can't go to any of the cool talks, but at the same time, you don't want to go to the cool talks anyway. What you want to do is network if you've never been to GDC before. IGDA volunteer program is a great way to do that. I also recommend, of course, the actual conference volunteer program, which is which does get you an all access badge, but you're also going to be expected to work more. So that's kind of the trade-off there. And neither of those options pays for travel. Food, sure. And actually the volunteer program at GDC has been a paid position, which is required by the state of California for it to be a paid position. It's just not a lot of money and won't cover your travel cost, and you won't get it until after you've traveled. So just wanna throw that out there really quickly. But yeah, I agree that if we could actually turn something where there's like a booth for Philly of some variety, whether that's like through the state, through a school, however we do it, I think that would be cool and could open up some more opportunities for people. So I like that idea. RJ agreed. The talks are often posted on the GDC Vault and or the GDC YouTube channel. Of course, the real benefit of GDC and other conferences is the networking opportunities. Yeah, 100% agree. And there are really cool talks on the GDC YouTube page, so I recommend that. And we'll try to continue having cool talks on our YouTube page as well. Again, I'd like to mention too that, like, I know we've been talking about a lot of similar-ish topics, but also remember that we are also looking for comments or questions about our content, other content that we could do, other content that you would like to see. So keep that in mind too, that there are a lot of different topics on the table right now about what IGDA Philly can do for you. So if you have any questions on these things, doesn't necessarily have to be about the website or about the remote opportunities. There are other things out there too. So yeah, I am going to open it up again. Any other questions, other comments, anything else out there? And I'm going to poke the members of our board too, because a lot of what I said was not prepped. A lot of that was me. So maybe you have insight that I don't have, and I would like to hear from our board as well.
Crickets.
Yep.
Well, I think we have a lot of material to, I mean, if somebody has something, please raise your little digital hand or type away. Um, we just can't get Karen to shut up. Oh my God. She's just always on and on and on and on and on. But I think, no, I think this has been an interesting talk this year. And you know, Adrian, I think you set a good table for lots of different topics, and I think I just want to repeat the just do it kind of attitude, and to really make that convert. Let's make a crappy website.
Yeah, that's the energy.
Goal number one. Let's just do the dang thing and get it up and going. But you know, I think part of that is that we all have to recognize that we have limited bandwidth. But even if we just say, like, F it, let's just do this, the bad version of it, and let's make it start it and make it real, more real than just an idea. Any kind of weird little helps. And so anybody who wants to step forward and say, I'll do some stupid little thing, or I've got 30 minutes this month that I can spare. What can I do for you? Anything along this in 30 minutes? You know, we pile a couple of those 30 minutes together and we've got a couple of hours of effort that didn't happen before, and some content happens, some event happens, some speaker is contacted, you know, any number of different things can come from those small little incremental efforts. So that's all I've got to say.
I agree. I would also like to add another one thing real quick, which is that I listed a bunch of different things that we're looking for, in particular for volunteers. If there is something that you think you can add that is not something that I said, but you think that it would be beneficial to us and that you could add that, feel free to suggest it, to at least suggest it. Let's talk. Like, I do not mind just getting suggestions for things. And if we see the value in it and we come to an agreement, then yeah, absolutely. So again, I just want to say really quickly, if you have any ideas of other ways that you want to do for volunteering and such, please feel free to just reach out. All right. So, in lieu of anything else, is there any other final comments, questions, or concerns? The event still has about a half hour. I said it all very well. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate that. And to Jason too, of course. All right, then I guess we will call it here. You know, again, our early night, but at the same time, I think that we actually, like, again, I think the energy was there. I think we all kind of have an idea of where it's going to go. I have some emails I need to send out and some Discord messages that I need to send, which I'm going to do this week. And keep an eye on that IGDA YouTube, because I absolutely, like I said, it'll either be this weekend or next weekend, depending on how I'm feeling, because again, still kind of doing my own little self-imposed quarantine after MagFest. So we'll see what happens, but either way, I'll get the YouTube content on the page as soon as possible. Otherwise, continue to look forward to our future events. Look forward to what's going on with Philly Makes Games. I know Philly Makes Games is, or excuse me, look forward to Philly Game Mechanics. The problem is they have very similar acronyms. Philly Game Mechanics has a lot of cool things in the pipeline. I've been following them. They're talking about what their plans are for the Global Game Jam, which is at the end of the year. I didn't particularly point out till now because those plans have not been 100% solidified yet. But the Global Game Jam is at the end of the year. Game Mechanics, as always, is working to try and build the Philadelphia site for the Game Jam. So please keep an eye out for that. Yeah, end of the month. I believe it's the last week of the month is going to be the Game Jam. Again, I don't have 100% sure of the details there. They're still kind of hammering those out. But either way, Global Game Jam is happening, and Philly will have some representation for it. So if you haven't joined the Philly Game Mechanics Discord, I'm pretty sure everyone here is actually someone I know from the Philly Game, is at least on the Philly Game Mechanics Discord. But just in case, join their Discord. Keep an eye out for what they're doing, not just for the Global Game Jam, but all of their events, which is cool. Fellowship of Philly Games, I know, is also planning the next event, which I'm really, again, looking forward to. So Fellowship of Philly Games, also check out their Discord and check out their event calendar. And yeah, otherwise, we will be telling you all what February is going to be very soon. I thank you all again for your time and attendance, and yeah, we'll get this on YouTube shortly so that you can go back through it and you can share it with all your friends and tell them about all the cool things that IGDA Philly is going to get done in 2023. Thank you again so much. I think this has been great.
Well done, Adrian. Thanks everybody for being here.